Hey everybody, Brian Zane here with your Money in the Bank 2017 review. As you can see, I'm not in my usual spot this week. I'm actually reporting to you from the Boston, Massachusetts area. I've been here all weekend shooting a movie. I'll tell you more about that and the details therein in the next couple of weeks. So, but I was able to watch Money in the Bank from my hotel room tonight, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on it. So here we go. In the pre-show, the newly reunited Hype Bros, Zack Ryder and Mojo Rawley, take on the Colognes. Zack Ryder, of course, has been out for the last several months with a knee injury. He's back. They've reunited. Zack's looking in good shape, looking in good form here. Tom Phillips keeps referring to him as Broski, like that's his name. Pretty standard tag team match, as you know, the Colognes work over Zack's knee for the bulk of the match. Mojo gets the hot tag. He's a House of Fire. They win. They beat the Colognes with the Hype Rider to win the match, and there you go. So now the question is, what happens with the Hype Bros in the future? I think there's a lot of speculation that the two are going to split up and Zack's going to turn heel over Mojo's single success, which I think is probably the better way to go. I wouldn't want to see these two go back to the status quo and be a team again forever, considering what Mojo's accomplished on his own. I think that the two of them together it's already just kind of it's a tag team scene that's not necessarily bloated, but it's really underutilized on Smackdown right now, where we only see two teams a week, if at all, and I think they get lost in the shuffle. So it wouldn't be good for them to stay together as a team, especially with, you know, Mojo's been so on and off and Zack's back, so we get to present him. So yeah, I think splitting them up and having a little mini feud would be good for both of them, as crazy as it is. In what is easily the most talked about, controversial match of the night, but we'll talk about the finish later, it's the first ever women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Tamina, Carmella, Natalya, Charlotte, and Becky Lynch. This match, I was really interested in seeing how this would go, mostly for the novelty of the fact that it's the first ever women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Not particularly an innovative match, if that makes any sense. There wasn't a lot of crazy spots happening with ladders, but all five women really used the environment to their advantage. You know, they didn't pussyfoot around with the ladders. They really used them in full effect on everybody. Like, everyone took pretty big ladder shots. So kudos to them for doing that. You know, not playing with kid gloves with the ladders in this case. They really they really captured the spirit of what Money in the Bank is all about, even if the crazier spots were reserved for the main event. We'll get to that later. After the entrances, but before the match begins, they play this hype package to showcase the history this match is making. They talk about all the women who came before them, and it starts with Mae Young, Fabulous Moolah, then it goes down the line. I find it very interesting that as of late, the last couple of years, they've really done their best to try and diminish Moolah's impact in WWE, even though she objectively has had a more storied history in the company than Mae Young ever did. But I think as time has gone on and more people are aware of what the Fabulous Moolah did in her life, running with her stranglehold on women's wrestling over the years, I think it makes sense to put Mae up on top, even though, you know, she's not the first woman I think of when it comes to like historic women in professional wrestling. The match ends when Becky Lynch is powerbombing Carmella off of the ladder. She goes to climb the ladder herself. James Ellsworth slides in and actually lifts up the ladder to knock Becky Lynch off. He climbs the ladder, takes down the briefcase, drops it into Carmella's lap on the ring, and the bell rings, and then they don't announce a winner yet. The referees are arguing as to what's going on, how do they call this? You know, this is so unprecedented. James Ellsworth runs in, grabs the microphone, and announces Carmella the winner, and that's that. And this has sparked a huge debate already online. Now, on the one hand, I totally understand why they booked the match that way. It's perfect heel heat. James Ellsworth, who is the manager or valet, as it were, to Carmella, does the dirty work and helps Carmella win the match. I think that's fine storytelling from that perspective. It's classic heel heat. But yeah, and honestly, we haven't seen that happen before in Money in the Bank matches, to the best of my recollection. No one has ever so blatantly just won the match for somebody else and helped them like that. But I think what people are really upset about is the fact that they spend so much time hyping this up as this historical thing for the women's, you know? It's like, oh, it's women this, women that. Women have come so far and overcome so many obstacles to get to this point in wrestling history, and to have the first ever match of its kind involving women, to have it ending with the man doing the work and helping the woman win, that seems to take away from it. It takes away from the symbolism of women first, women doing this, you know. It's supposed to be the women's time, and here's this man taking the spotlight, taking the glory. No heat on Ellsworth specifically, it's the fact that it's a guy doing it. I don't think people are mad at the characters, I think they're mad at the symbolism. And I can understand that as well. And I don't want to get into a whole debate about feminism and all that stuff right here on this channel. Lord knows when I tackle social issues here, people get uneasy about it. So I'm not going to talk about it here, but I do think it's worth looking at and saying, hey, you know, this is there's more to it than just heel heat here. And I'm not saying this was a malicious thing on the part of the writers, but it sits weird with me. I get the heel heat thing, but at the same time, just the symbolism of it is strange to me. Just let me know what you guys think about it in the comments section. SmackDown tag titles are on the line as the Usos defend against the New Day. The New Day come out and make jokes about prison rape, and the match goes on. Really cool spot earlier in the match when the Usos do a double team spot onto Kofi where they double suplex him back first onto the ring post cover, the LED shell on the outside of the ring. And then Tom Phillips immediately says, Xavier and Big E can only look on. They can't get involved or they'll get disqualified. Like, that doesn't make any sense because they just did a double team move on the outside using the ring as a weapon and there was no DQ. There's nothing stopping at least Big E, who is the legal man of the match, from getting involved. Kofi's the one who gets worked on a lot in this match. They work over his knee later on in it. Big E does get the hot tag at one point. It does the spear to the outside that is so scary to watch. The bump didn't look too severe, but you could see it looked like he was selling his shoulder for a scary long amount of time. Like he might have really hurt himself. I don't think that was the case because he did carry on with the rest of the match and was able to use his shoulder pretty well. At one point, Big E catches Jay midair, kind of, and hits him with the big ending. It kind of reminded me of the sequence in the Taker-Reigns match at WrestleMania where Reigns was supposed to counter the tombstone, but he couldn't get Taker up. And, I had the flashbacks to that, but they were able to coordinate, and Big E did get Jay up to hit the big ending. And then after that point, it was a very, very questionably close 2 count where it looked almost as if the referee got his hand down for the 3 before the pin was broken up just by like a frog's hair, very narrow. And I think it's a questionable thing. I don't think it was a botch necessarily, but it was a very close call. Kofi with the big trust fall to the outside onto the Usos. They toss Jay into the ring. They hit him with the Midnight Hour just when you think the match is over and they've won. Jimmy pulls Jay out of the ring and they wander around the ring. They sell and they grab the tag belts and they leave and they're counted out. So the New Day win the match by a count out, but the Usos remain the tag team champions. A very disappointing finish to this match. I think this was besides the Money in the Bank men's match, I think it was one of the better mid-card matches of the show. It really got my attention, and then the finish was just kind of like a real damper on it. Kind of like, the 2 out of 3 falls match they had on Raw last week with the Hardys and Cesaro and Sheamus to have, the third fall and on a double count out in that way. So it's weird, this weird trend they're having all of a sudden where like these really exciting matches have these really piss poor finishes. So that was a really, I don't want to take away too much from the match itself because, again, the match was very entertaining. The finish was very lackluster. SmackDown Women's title on the line as Naomi defends against Lana in her singles debut. Some "We Want Rusev" chants immediately break out as soon as the match begins. Lana is very vocal. She's a very vocal wrestler, whether she's selling or whether she's putting in offense. She's yelling a lot. Lana hits Naomi with multiple snap suplexes with Naomi's legs hitting the ropes. And while I get there trying to tell a story with that, that's not a very safe bump. That's not good for your legs to clip the ropes like that because it could really mess up, your calf muscle, your Achilles tendon. Stop taking that bump. That's very scary. The announcers are in total disbelief. They are gobsmacked over the fact this match has gone as long as it has, and that Lana is as capable looking as she's been. And honestly, this match surprised me because I was expecting, one or both of them just to trip and fall over each other. The fact that they didn't have a very visual, huge botches to me in this match, considering I don't think Naomi's a very good ring general, and Lana has so little experience in singles competition, the fact that there was no noticeable huge botches to me makes them both winners in my eyes. Naomi goes for the rear, she hits the rear view, Lana kicks out, Lana does her hammerlock spinebuster, sit out spinebuster she did last week on SmackDown, and Naomi kicked out of that. And my whole thought was, well, if that's Lana's finisher, then they just killed it. The fact that it's the first time she's used it in a match and Naomi kicks out. At that point, Carmella comes out and we think, oh my God, she's going to cash in. That would have been very interesting. But just Carmella's there. She teases she's going to cash in. She doesn't. And so with Lana is distracted, she's going to hit Naomi again with the spine buster, but Naomi counters it, turns it into the Slay Omission. Lana submits, and that's all she wrote. Naomi retains the championship. Carmella again teases the cash-in, declines, and walks to the back. So I think the distraction and the diversion caused by Carmella kind of takes the edge off the fact that Lana lost this match. I didn't expect her to win, but I think people were kind of expecting, well, she's debuting here, and she's in this title match, so maybe she'll win. And I could see the logic in that, but I think that this kind of, it minimizes the sting of Lana losing her singles debut. How, what Lana's going to do in the aftermath of this, I'm not sure, but I think it was a good singles debut for Lana. She didn't fall over all over herself, and she was fine. In their attempts to pad this pay-per-view up because they only had 5 matches advertised for the main show, we get Fashion Vice, which was, you know, the Miami Vice 80s take on the Fashion Files, which was another hilarious send-up of that genre. Everything was in 4x3. I thought it was hilarious. Nice little touch there. Fandango and Tyler Breeze discover a tape, and they play it, and it's some silhouetted guys saying, you know, we're the ones who trashed your office and beat up Tyler Breeze. Get in the ring tonight and find out who it is, and then it goes to black, and so we're going to see them later tonight. We then immediately go to the arrival of Mike Bennett and Maria Kanellis, who we last saw in Impact Wrestling. Of course, they're being billed here as Mike and Maria Kanellis. Mike's not using the Bennett name. When I first heard it, my first thought was, is this a dig at Cody and Brandy Rhodes and the way they try to get around the whole legal issue of Cody not being able to use his last name when he was with Impact? I thought the similarities to me was the first thing that came to mind. But it turns out, you know, Mike has taken Maria's last name. They're very much in love. That's the gimmick, basically. They're educating the WWE Universe on the power of love. I love their theme. It's the 80s power ballad song. It's funny because when they played it right after the Fashion Vice segment, I thought that these two things were connected in some way. But no, it was a separate thing. But, you know, the 80s power ballad is a theme of something I never thought I wanted in wrestling, but now I think it's great. I haven't seen enough of Bennett's work in Impact or Ring of Honor to really form an opinion on him, but I'm excited to see Maria back to the WWE fold. I will be talking about her a little later this week, and I'll tell you more about that at the end of this review, so to keep your eyes peeled for that. But yeah, it's interesting. The whole thing where, you know, Mike has taken Maria's last name. Some people will say some things about what that means in terms of Mike's relationship to Maria. I think it's interesting. I want to give it a chance. WWE Championship on the line as Jinder Mahal, the modern-day Maharaja, defends against Randy Orton in Orton's hometown of St. Louis, and they went all out with a presentation for Orton in this match, because not only is he the hometown boy and everyone goes nuts for his entrance, easily one of the biggest pops of the night was for Orton during his introduction for the match, but also all these legends at ringside here to watch him wrestle. They had Greg Gagne and Baron Von Raschke and Sergeant Slaughter and Larry Hennig, Cowboy Bob Orton, of course that's Orton's father. It's on Father's Day watching his son wrestle. That was kind of a cool moment. Ric Flair is also there at ringside, so all these legends are here. And Jinder Mahal, they took away his really cool entrance. They didn't have like the slow red carpet thing. I don't know if that was a mistake or what, but don't take that away. That's one of the coolest things about Jinder's character right now. Jinder's working on Orton's leg for the bulk of the match. He puts him in the figure 4 right in front of Ric Flair. That was just cool heat. He puts him in the spinning toe hold. He goes with the superplex at one point, just right in front of Bob Orton, who revolutionized the superplex and really kind of innovated it. But then Orton blocks it, hits him with the superplex of his own. Randy hits Jinder with the drape over DDT, followed by the RKO. You think he's got it won, but just the last second, one of the Singh brothers puts Jinder's foot on the ropes. But instead of being disqualified, the referee just ejects the Singh brothers. They're making their way out, but then they come back and they decide to crack whip with these legends, as Dusty Rhodes might have said. They grab Bob Orton, they're accosting him at ringside. Randy Orton intervenes and just goes ham on both of them. He just destroys them. He actually hits Samil, I believe, with a running RKO from one table to the other through the table, and a great spot here. So again, this is going to play out very, very similar to the finish from Backlash, because Orton's just beating the hell out of the Singh brothers. He destroys them like he did at Backlash. He gets back in the ring. Jinder kicks him in the leg that he's been working, which, by the way, Orton was not really selling at this point anymore. So Jinder hits Orton in the leg, hits him with a kalash, and wins the match to retain the championship. So Jinder wins dirty to retain the championship, but the finish played out almost identical to the finish at Backlash, with the exception of the involvement of the legends and the fact that they used him as bait. So not much of a difference there. Despite the similarity between the finish of these two matches, I think it's still great heel heat for Jinder to beat Randy Orton in Orton's hometown, in front of his father, on Father's Day. It's like really just checking all the evil bad guy boxes for Jinder. We get our follow-up with Breezango. They go to the ring to confront their mystery assailants, and it's the Ascension. Whee! You know, I mean, it was either them or American Alpha, which wouldn't have made any sense, but there you go. There's no one else in SmackDown's tag division to have for this matchup. Very standard tag team match, nothing special here. Breezango go over after Breeze knocks Connor off the top rope, and they're going for a double team move. Dango rolls up Victor to win the match. So there you have it. I mean, I can't imagine this goes on beyond this, because they already beat the Ascension once several weeks ago when they first started doing Fashion Files. They beat them again on Sunday what really is there for them to do at this point other than to kind of meander around in the Smackdown tag mid-card waiting for the New Day Usos rivalry to get over with. It's just kind of a weird filler storyline here. Also, I found it weird that this was like the second to last match of the night. I found it weird the stacking of the show that you had the WWE Championship match third to last on a Smackdown pay-per-view when like that's your main title for the brand. I think if armchair booking here, I probably would have swapped the Mike and Maria Kanellis segment with the Breezango match, because they could have easily just walked out there and just done it right after that. I think it would have paced it better and had a more kind of like impactful, like, wow, look at this debut happening just before we get this very dramatic main event. But it is what it is. Main event time is the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. You've got AJ Styles, Dolph Ziggler, Sami Zayn, Baron Corbin, Kevin Owens. Hit the music. America, America. And Shinsuke Nakamura, who's immediately jumped from behind by Baron Corbin during his entrance. So Shinsuke's taken out at the beginning of the match, and they turn it into a 5-way. So many crazy things happening in this match. I cannot do it justice to try and do a blow-by-blow account of this match. It's just an insane spot fest that easily surpasses what they did last year at Money in the Bank, in my opinion, the one I was at live. MVP of this match is easily Kevin Owens, because he just took some of the most insane bumps throughout the entire show. First off, he's on the top rope ready to jump on some guys on the outside. Sami Zayn catches him, beals him off the top into an open ladder earlier in the match. At one point, he takes a half Nelson suplex from Zayn onto the apron, which looks sick. He takes a Death Valley driver from AJ Styles off the apron onto a ladder. It's just brutal stuff. I don't know how Kevin Owens is not broken in half from the match he had on Sunday night. That was just amazing stuff. Also, kudos to him for his American-themed, red and blue wrist tape. At one point, Sami hits a sunset flip powerbomb from the ladder onto Ziggler, which that spot just terrifies the hell out of me. Just because, not so much the guy taking the move, but when Sami's giving it, because he's from such a height and all the moving limbs and stuff, it's just a wonder. That's the kind of spot where if someone lands incorrectly, that could just break your legs and your ankles in half. And I mean, it always just makes me like, just tense up when that kind of spot happens. But fortunately, it doesn't look like anything happened there. At one point, Styles is climbing the ladder and he's grabbing the briefcase, but Dolph pulls the ladder from under him, so he's floating there. He's trying to grab the case, trying to unhook it, solely on the strength of his upper arm, his upper body. He can't do it. He just falls face first onto the canvas. Brutal looking bump. Corbin's back in the ring, climbing the ladder. Suddenly, Shinsuke Nakamura's music hits again. Shinsuke is back out there to finish the match. If Roman Reigns did the same thing on a Raw pay-per-view, everyone would shit all over it. Be that as it may, Shinsuke is a house of fire. He cleans house, just beats up everybody. Then it has this stare down between him and AJ Styles from opposite ends of the ladder, which is really, then the better moment beyond that was that they both together pick up the ladder, put it to the side, and then they start fighting. That was such a cool little moment there. I loved it. AJ comes out on top in this little exchange. They're both climbing the ladder again. Baron Corbin dumps them both off the ladder. He climbs it, he grabs the briefcase, and Baron Corbin is your Mr. Money in the Bank for 2017. What an incredible match. Great story. So many different movements in this match. Just great stuff overall. Easily the match of the night. And Corbin winning the briefcase is a great move. I think of the 6 people involved, he stood the most to gain from it. I think it's his time. He's put in his work. I think he's done great stuff in the last year on the main roster. So I'm all in favor of Corbin having the briefcase. Time now for my final thoughts on Money in the Bank 2017. I'm going to give this show a final grade of B-, and here's why. I loved both of the ladder matches. Even though the women's match wasn't like wild, crazy, insane spots like in the main event, I do think all 5 of the women were very capable. I think they all delivered. They used the ladders as part of the match. They didn't dance around the issue. They actually used them and like took ladder bumps and took ladder shots. So great stuff there. Even though the finish is highly controversial and I can see both sides of it at the same time, I think it's just such a good heel thing. I get why they did it, and I'm gonna say that even though it's controversial, I still think that the women's match overall was a pro. Seeing Mike Bennett and Maria Kanellis, or rather Mike and Maria Kanellis debut, was a really cool thing to see for the show. I loved the tag title match except for the finish, so I'm gonna kind of split those two apart for pros and cons. And speaking of tag stuff, I mean, the whole Breezango Ascension thing just didn't need to be there. I think it was just kind of a thrown in there storyline and really a disappointing conclusion to the who jumped Breezango and who trashed their office storyline. Just kind of weird. The finish to the championship match, Orton and Mahal, was just so paint by numbers similar to Backlash that, you know, the match itself was fine, but again, the finish, not so great. There's a lot of controversial and just kind of like, bad taste in your mouth finishes. But finishes aside, I think the overall action we saw on the show on Sunday, especially the main event, like, you know, I gushed over the main event from Extreme Rules. This match blew that one clear out of the water. There's no comparison. There's no competition. Money in the Bank easily beats the Fatal 5-Way from Extreme Rules. And now I guess it's time to compare and say who wore better pay-per-view style. This is actually a pretty easy month to compare Raw and SmackDown pay-per-views, in my opinion, just because both shows had a kind of a hardcore theme to them. Also, I wound up giving both shows the same letter grade of B-. So it's kind of a toss-up. Even though both shows had like questionable finishes at times, I am going to give the nod to Money in the Bank. I think they made better use of their theme. You know, I don't think all the extreme matches from Extreme Rules really lived up to the hype. Again, the main event for Extreme Rules was phenomenal, but I think Money in the Bank's was just that much better. I think that, you know, the Money in the Bank was peppered with more positive moments for me. Like I popped for Fashion Vice, and seeing Mike Bennett and Maria Kanellis debut was really cool. And even though Naomi and Lana didn't tear the house down in their match, it was still a shitload better than Alexa Bliss Bayley at Extreme Rules. So yeah, I'm gonna give Money in the Bank the nod this month. Let me know what you thought about the show in the comments section below. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it. Subscribe to Wrestling with Regret. Buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com and support the show at Patreon.com/WrestlingWithRegret. This week's long form review for Thursday, it's a doozy, folks. It's the Diva Search. You're not going to want to miss this. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.